Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're going to look at what it means to feel stuck. You know, that feeling like you're spinning your wheels and getting nowhere,
Mhm.
and how we can reframe that experience.
Mhm.
The conversation we'll be exploring today dives into a really powerful perspective.
Yeah.
It suggests that instead of seeing stuck as like a dead end,
Yeah.
we should look at it as a challenge in a game.
Yeah.
So, what if we're not actually trapped? What if we have more choices than we realize?
I love that analogy of life as a game. It's so empowering because it suggests that we're not just victims of our circumstances. We have agency. We can make choices that can actually change the game.
Right, exactly. And each choice we make kind of opens up these new possibilities, like it's a move on the game board leading us down a different path.
Yeah, think about it like navigating a maze.
I like that.
That there are exits, but you have to actively search for them. You have to make choices about which direction to turn, which path to try. You'll probably hit some dead ends along the way, but that doesn't mean the game is over.
Right. It just means you got to come up with a new strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe backtrack a little bit and try a different route. And that's where the idea of agency comes in, this power we have to make choices,
hmm Even small ones.
even small ones, that can have a huge ripple effect on our
They
lives.
shared a really cool story in this conversation about a woman who felt totally trapped in her job. She hated it,
Ah, I've been there.
but she made this small choice to spend just 30 minutes a day learning to code.
Wow.
And you know what? Within 3 years, that tiny little decision completely transformed her life. She was able to quit her job and start her own business doing something that she loved.
That is so inspiring. It just shows you that even when things feel really bleak, there's always something you can do to start moving in the right direction.
Yeah. And sometimes it's those seemingly insignificant actions that end up having the biggest impact down the road.
Totally agree. It's like that saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in wanting instant gratification.
Oh, yeah.
But real change takes time.
Uh-huh. It takes dedication.
And that's where I think a lot of people get tripped up. They make a few small changes, don't see results right away.
And then they just give up.
Exactly.
Mm,
But what if they had stuck with it just a little bit longer?
yeah.
You know, imagine what they could have achieved.
It's like anything worth having in life. It takes effort. It takes perseverance. You don't build a house overnight.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So how do we cultivate that kind of persistence? Because I think a lot of us, myself included, struggle with staying motivated when we don't see immediate results.
That's a great question. One thing I find really helpful is reframing our definition of success.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
So instead of focusing solely on the end goal,
Right.
what if we celebrated the small wins along the way? Like each step forward,
Uh-huh.
each choice we make that aligns with our desired direction is a victory worth celebrating.
I love that. That's such a good point. It's like instead of being so fixated on the destination,
Yeah.
you start to enjoy the journey more.
Exactly. And it makes the whole process feel less overwhelming and more enjoyable.
Yeah, you're not constantly beating yourself up for not being there yet.
And when you start seeing those small wins, it creates this positive feedback loop.
Yeah.
You feel good about the progress you're making,
hmm
which then motivates you to keep going. It's a virtuous cycle.
I like that. A
Yeah.
virtuous cycle. But what about the fear of making the wrong choice?
Ugh, yeah.
That's a big one.
I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're already feeling stuck. They're so afraid of making a mistake that they just end up frozen,
Yeah.
unable to make any choice at all.
Yeah, that fear is totally understandable. But what if we challenged our perception of what wrong even means?
Okay, how do we do that?
What if we looked at it less as a failure and more as a learning opportunity? Like every choice we make,
Right.
even the ones that don't turn out the way we expected,
Right.
they offer valuable lessons and they open up new possibilities.
So instead of trying to avoid mistakes altogether,
Right.
we should embrace them as part of the process. Exactly. It's like that saying, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. Like sometimes those wrong turns
Yeah.
end up leading us to amazing destinations.
Absolutely. Destinations we never could have imagined.
And sometimes those detours are exactly what we need to get us back on the right track.
Totally agree. It's all part of the journey.
This is making me think about that whole life as a game analogy again. Because in any game,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to face challenges.
For sure.
You're going to have setbacks,
Yeah.
maybe even a few losses.
Yeah. Losing is part of the game.
But it's how you respond to those challenges that really determines your ultimate success.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about resilience. It's about learning from your mistakes.
And it's about having the courage to get back up and keep playing, even when you get knocked down.
It is. And that brings us back to the importance of agency.
Yeah,
Even when we face setbacks, we still have the power to choose how we respond,
right.
how we learn from the experience, and how we move forward.
It's not about letting those setbacks define us. It's about using them as fuel to propel us forward.
Love that. Using setbacks as fuel. That's a powerful image.
It is. And it's a reminder that we always have a choice,
Always.
even when it feels like we don't.
Even when it feels like the game is rigged against us.
Exactly. We can choose to stay stuck, or we can choose to level up.
I like that. Level up. That's what it's all about.
It is. And who knows what amazing possibilities await us on the next level.
Exactly. The game is always full of surprises.
It is. And that's what makes it so exciting.
I'm ready to play.
Me too.
It's not about letting those setbacks define us, but about using them as fuel to propel us forward.
You know,
Well, yeah.
it's like in video games.
Yeah.
You often learn the most from the levels you lose
Mm.
or the bosses that take you multiple tries to defeat.
Such a great analogy. It's about embracing those failures as opportunities for growth and learning. Each time we fall short,
Yeah.
we gain these valuable insights
Yeah.
that can help us strategize and approach the challenge from a different angle.
So instead of getting discouraged when things don't go as planned,
Right.
we should view those experiences as valuable feedback.
Exactly. And that's a skill that can be applied to every aspect of life,
Yeah.
whether it's our careers, our relationships,
Yeah.
personal growth, the ability to learn from our mistakes and adapt our approach.
The depth.
It's essential for success.
I think that's what separates the people who achieve their goals from the ones who don't.
I agree. It's not about being perfect, it's about being persistent.
This reminds me of something else they talked about in this conversation, the power of strategic waiting.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's this idea that even when we're feeling stuck,
Yeah.
we can choose to wait,
Yeah.
but we should do so intentionally, not passively.
That's such a powerful distinction because so often when we feel stuck, we just kind of freeze up.
Yeah.
You know, we wait for something to change, for someone to rescue us, or for the perfect opportunity to just magically appear.
You want that easy button.
Right. But that's not what strategic waiting is about.
Exactly. It's not about sitting back and letting life happen to us.
It's about using that time intentionally.
Preparing ourselves for the next move.
Exactly. It's about reflecting on our goals, gathering information, honing our skills, building our network, all those things we can do while we're waiting for the right opportunity to present itself.
So it's not about being passive. It's about actively preparing ourselves for the next chapter.
Absolutely. It's about making a conscious choice to use that time wisely instead of letting it slip away.
You know, this whole idea of strategic waiting
Mm-hmm.
is making me think about that woman who learned to code. Because she didn't just wake up one day and decide to quit her job.
Yeah.
She spent 3 years strategically preparing herself,
Yeah.
building her skills
That's right.
before making that leap.
She was putting in the work behind the scenes.
Right, and I think that's a really empowering message for anyone who's feeling stuck right now.
Yeah.
Even if you're not in a position to make a drastic change immediately, you can start taking small steps today to prepare yourself for the future you want.
I love that. It's about taking ownership of your future, even if you can't control everything that happens.
Yeah, you can control your preparation. You can control your mindset,
And you can control your actions.
whether it's taking an online course, attending industry events, or even just reading books and articles about your field of interest. Those small actions can make a huge difference over time.
They plant the seeds for future opportunities.
And sometimes those seeds take time to germinate,
They do. But with consistent effort,
and a little patience.
they'll eventually blossom into something amazing.
It's like watching a garden grow. You have to nurture those seeds. You have to give them time, and eventually they'll sprout and flourish.
I like that analogy. It's a reminder that growth takes time.
This whole conversation is really making me rethink the way I approach challenges and setbacks. It's so easy to get caught up in feeling frustrated or discouraged when things don't go my way. But what if instead I viewed those experiences as opportunities for growth and learning?
That's a powerful shift in perspective. And it's one that can completely transform the way you navigate the game of life. Because once you embrace the idea that challenges are inevitable and that setbacks are simply part of the learning process, you become much more resilient and adaptable.
Like you develop this inner confidence that no matter what obstacles you face, you have the skills and resources to overcome them,
Exactly. It's about trusting yourself.
and knowing that you're not alone.
We all go through challenges. We all experience setbacks. It's part of being human.
But it's how we choose to respond to those challenges that defines who we are.
And that's what makes the game of life so interesting. It's full of twists and turns.
It keeps us on our toes.
It does, and it forces us to grow and evolve.
And that's what this conversation has been all about. Recognizing that we have the power to choose our own adventure.
And that even when we feel lost or stuck,
We can always find our way back to the path that's meant for us
exactly, it's all about trusting the journey.
and trusting ourselves.
I love that. Trusting ourselves. That's the key.
As we've been talking about this whole idea of life as a game of choices,
Yeah.
it's become so clear that we really do have the power to shape our own destinies.
It really is empowering, isn't it? Like recognizing that we're not just passive bystanders, just along for the ride.
Exactly. We're active participants.
Yes. In the unfolding of our lives.
But I think where a lot of people get tripped up is in the actual doing part.
Yeah.
It's one thing to acknowledge that we have choices,
Yeah.
but it's quite another to actually make them.
Especially when those choices involve stepping outside our comfort zone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where the rubber meets the road, right? Like, it's easy to get caught up in the conceptual, but true transformation happens when we translate those insights into action.
So for those of us feeling that inertia, that fear of taking that first step, what can we do to break free and actually start playing the game with intention?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me in this conversation was the emphasis on the power of small choices. Like, remember that woman who spent 30 minutes a day learning to code? It wasn't this monumental shift all at once.
Right.
It was the consistency of that small choice, compounded over time, that led to a huge transformation.
Small changes, big impact.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of those small wins. Each time you make a choice that aligns with your goals, no matter how tiny, it reinforces your sense of agency.
Mm.
And that can be incredibly motivating.
It's like proving to yourself that you are capable of making changes.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that builds confidence, which makes it easier to take on bigger challenges and make bolder choices down the line.
But what about those times when we feel completely lost? Like you don't even know what choices to make, let alone how to take action, What do we do then?
That's where the idea of strategic waiting comes in. Sometimes the wisest move isn't to force a decision, but to pause, reflect, and gather more information.
So it's not about giving up or becoming complacent,
No, not at all.
but rather about using that time intentionally to prepare for the next move. It's about becoming the student of your own life, asking yourself, what are you curious about? What skills do you want to develop? What experiences would bring you joy and fulfillment? Use that waiting time to explore those questions, to learn, and to equip yourself for the opportunities that will inevitably arise.
So it's almost like you're creating space for those opportunities to show up.
Exactly. And sometimes that's exactly what we need, a little breathing room to figure things out.
This reminds me of something else that came up in the conversation.
Yeah.
The importance of reframing our definition of success. So often we get caught up in this idea of a linear path, like we have to hit certain milestones by a certain age, or that there's only one right way to achieve our goals.
Oh, I know what you mean. And that can be incredibly limiting, can't it? It sets us up for disappointment and discouragement, especially when life inevitably throws us curveballs.
Because it always does, right?
Always. So what if we loosened our grip on that rigid definition of success and allowed ourselves to embrace a more fluid, organic approach?
So instead of focusing on the end goal so much, what if success became more about the journey?
Exactly. What if it became more about living in alignment with our values, pursuing our passions, and continually learning and growing?
That would certainly take a lot of pressure off.
Mm-hmm.
And it would open up so much more possibility for exploration and experimentation. It's almost like giving ourselves permission to play.
I love that, giving ourselves permission to play. Because when we're not so focused on the destination, we can actually enjoy the journey more.
And that brings us back to the game analogy.
Full circle.
The most fulfilling games aren't the ones we win easily,
Mm.
but the ones that challenge us, surprise us, and force us to grow and adapt. It's the journey, the twists and turns, the moments of triumph and defeat that make the game worth playing.
So well said. And that's ultimately what this conversation is all about, isn't it? It's about embracing the game of life with all its complexities and challenges, knowing that we have the power to choose our moves, to learn from our experiences, and to shape our own destinies.
This has been such an insightful exploration of the power of choice. It's a reminder that even when we feel stuck, we always have options. We can choose to stay stuck, or we can choose to move forward, to learn to grow, and to create a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
And it all comes down to agency, recognizing that we have the power to choose And then, most importantly, having the courage to actually make those choices.
And who knows, maybe that one daring move, that leap of faith, will lead you to a level of success and fulfillment you never even imagined. So keep playing the game and keep choosing to create a life that lights you up.
Beautifully said. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive today, and we'll see you next time.